Welcome back, everyone. I know it was a short lunch break, but well, we tried to squeeze a lot in. This is the second lecture of my four, and it will be, again, kind of very general, not very technical. Tomorrow it will get more technical. So I continue to give an overview. So now I want to talk a little bit about practical use of AI for studying scientific writing and literature work. So this is something all of you will be doing. It's all something we are, as PIs and existing graduate students, are already doing. No one really knows exactly how to do this. This is the best advice I can give, okay? This is the result of my thoughts. I'm not saying it's anywhere closely optimum. So I have a rough structure, right? We'll start with some general tips on using large language models like ChatGPT. We covered this already, kind of the big players, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. And when you look at it, things have gotten actually quite a bit complicated, and they keep on changing, right, every month. So if you are on either of those platforms, you can select one of many models. And the bottom line is that some of them are smarter than others, whatever that really means. Some are smarter than others, but also slower. So if you select a very smart model, like, I don't know, Sol Ultra or Fable or something like that, you will have to wait a long time for your answer. It could be 20 seconds, it could be a few minutes, could be longer, okay? If you're paying for credits one way or the other, or you're using up your $20 credit, then those will eat faster into your credit. So if you have a somewhat trivial question, like where's the next pizza store, I would not bring out the biggest AI model, okay? So gets complicated, changes all the time. I would say don't overthink it, but what if you're underthinking? Well, you will wait and spend money, okay? All right, so another thing that there's often a little bit confusion about it and that no one really knows for sure is how the companies use it for training, our input, our discussions for training future AI models. So, and in a nutshell, the model that you are interacting with in the moment is a static model, okay? So when you write something in there, it doesn't mean that the weights immediately change. There are models like that, but not the typical models that we are using. However, in your chat or whatever you're using, there is an environment, there's a context window, right? It remembers the whole chat. It might remember, depending on your settings, what you guys discussed earlier on, right? So there's that, but it's essentially giant context information that is given along with your prompt. So you write one sentence, but a truckload of information is actually sent. So as far as we know, if you turn off the improved model, it should not improve, but there's a good chance that, who knows whether they are violating their own rules, and some of that information is used for training the next model. We also never really know for sure when a model changes, right? These many models that I showed you, there are probably many, many more. They might throw something at you just to see how you're responding. So that there's these lots of stories of whether it's a good idea to be rude to a model or nice or desperate. I really don't know. My advice on this is some people think this works. I would suggest to be nice, because sooner or later it will rub up on you, right? If you're always rude the whole time. So I don't know. So don't know. So some general tips. What we use so far with chats, okay? So this is essentially throwaway discussions. If you have something more serious, like a class or a research project or something that you care about, and you will probably come back to it many times, I would recommend that you open a project, okay? And I'll show you that in a second. The project will keep the chats together, and it will keep the files that you're providing together, for example, papers. So that brings me to the next thing. How do I upload a file? Maybe many of you probably know. You click on the plus sign, there's an upload option. The first one is usually photos. You can upload a photo or file, like a PDF of a paper, or copy paste some other stuff in there. So I asked ChatGPT on how to use this effectively, and he said attach files. No, what is this here? Web. Okay, I think we come to all of this. So when you click on this, there not only the upload option, but also other things that I will show you in a second. So, but that's where you upload your papers. So this is a project I did, and I called it Dr. Steinbock's kinetic class. Learn kinetics is the goal. And what you can do here is you can provide some instructions for this entire project. So you could, for example, say, this whole chat should be in Spanish. Or you could say, I'm a first-year graduate student, don't overestimate my knowledge. I'm new to MATLAB, but would like to learn it. Give always references. You could, for example, say, keep answers to 2 paragraphs unless I specifically ask for more. Okay, often the answers are very long that these things are spitting out. And then you can upload files that will be also in the next days, weeks available to you. You can upload computer scripts, right, to reference to and other things. So that puts it together into one big project. This is also a little hard to talk about. I'm not a lawyer, but this is my best advice. My bottom line advice would be, don't upload things that you would like to see published one day or stuff like that. Your medical record, right? Or medical record of someone else, or things that are not yours, right? I have a very, very high threshold. If someone gives me a document with some kind of gentleman's agreement that I will not share it, I should also not share it with these systems, right? Because I can't guarantee anything here. This includes, and this is where it gets very important to talk with your PI or future PI, what the group policies are. Can you upload a standard operating procedure for the lab? It's not your standard operating procedure, it's the group's or the PI standard operating procedure. So you cannot just, you shouldn't at least just upload it. I would never upload a password, never upload an API key, if you know what that is. Confidential stuff that you would like to patent one day, right, or so, I would not upload it. You might get away with it, but I would not do it. Then as it gets to externally funded research projects, keep in mind that there's some information that you might not be allowed to share. You might get into deep trouble if you do. And as a rule of thumb, it's probably the easiest and safe to use Gemini, if you have any doubt, because FSU has a contract with Google that allows more protection of the data that you are uploading to Gemini, okay? So unfortunately, Gemini is not the best model, and the university, I think, tries to get an Anthropic deal in the moment. So when in doubt, check the university rules and ask your PI. More general tips on how to do this. When you prompt, there used to be this thing called prompt engineering. I don't know whether it's really still a thing, but be specific, okay? If you ask, what is entropy? I think that's my example. Explain entropy. You will get immediately a pretty nice answer, but it will probably not make you very happy, right? Because the thing doesn't know what your knowledge is, right? It might start to talk about very complicated things. So it might be much better to say, I'm a second-year chemistry graduate student, explain entropy in the context of mixing 2 ideal gases. Maybe an example that you're a little bit familiar with. Or you could say, explain it like I'm a 12-year-old. There's also nothing wrong with it. If it's too easy, you can always step it up, right? But be specific, right? It's tempting to just type it in and get an answer. Next one is ask it to explain its reasoning, not just state an answer. So this doesn't work for the entropy example. I have another one there, I think. Walk me through your reasoning step by step on how to solve a particular analysis problem or something like that. So look at the details, right? Because you will learn from those steps more than from just some kind of summarized answer. Use the model to quiz yourself. I know, I must say, I don't do it, but it's very good advice, okay? So once you are done with the discussion, you could say, okay, I think I got a rough feeling what entropy is. Ask me 3 questions about entropy and let me know whether I can answer them correctly, right? If you have the patience to do that, and I hope you have, that's the way to go about it. You have a mentor at home in your pocket, so use him, it, she. All right, verify everything important. Sometimes you want a piece of information, and if there's a chance that it's wrong, okay, whatever, right? But sometimes you really want to, it's like, do I engage on this research project for the next 3 weeks or not? You want to make sure that you don't waste this time because ChatGPT bullshitted you, okay? So if it's something of moderate or higher importance, you can't just trust it. You have to kind of dig into it and look at it from other angles, right? So check the facts. So then there are other ways to interact with ChatGPT. Some of you might know this. This voice mode, okay? And when you dial into voice mode, you usually get a dumber model, a lower model, a cheaper model. And that can be fine if you just want to have a chat about like German language, right? I ask how to pronounce Wei's name correctly also, and probably get a bad answer. But these are not quite as good. So here's an example.
What do you think of my new hat?
I think it's got personality. The pattern is fun and it's giving off a laid-back vibe. If you like it, rock it with confidence.
Yeah, I do, but you don't think it's too small or anything?
It doesn't look too small to me. It sits up a little high, but that's just the style.
So, like, you don't think people will look at me and be like, that guy's got a tiny hat?
I don't think anyone's gonna focus on that. They'll just see someone with a cool, unique hat. So you're safe. No tiny hat judgments coming your way.
So I should go out into public wearing this hat, and you think it would be cool?
Absolutely. If you like it, that's what matters most. Wearing it with confidence will make it look cool to everyone else too. So go for it.
All right, I'm trusting you.
Okay, so I hope you heard it. Was the audio good enough? Okay, good. So you see these models, well, try to please you, but they're also sometimes really dumb, especially in voice mode. So I want to make a little demonstration if I find my phone. I want to activate the voice mode on my phone. Let's see. Hey, ChatGPT, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
What's up? Can you hear ChatGPT?
Yep, I hear you.
ChatGPT, can you tell me a little bit about the Arrhenius equation?
Sure, the Arrhenius equation relates the rate of the chemical reaction to temperature. Basically, K equals A times E to the minus activation energy over RT. In plain words, higher temperature usually means the reaction goes faster. What part are you curious about?
Okay, what is the unit of the activation energy in this equation?
Usually joules per mole. Kilojoules per mole, depending on the context. Temperature is in Kelvin, and
yeah, and okay, let's see. What is the physical interpretation of this e to the power of minus blah, blah, blah?
Right, that exponential term is the Boltzmann factor. It tells you the fraction of molecules that have enough energy to get over the activation barrier. Higher temperature or a lower barrier, it means more molecules can react.
Can that factor be bigger than 1?
No, not really. Because the exponent's negative and E, A, and T are positive, e to the minus EA over RT is between 0 and 1. It gets closer to 1 as temperature rises.
And what are typical values of this activation energy?
Often tends to a few hundreds of kilojoules per mole. Fast reactions have smaller activation barriers, sluggish ones have bigger ones.
And let's say I have 50 kilojoules per mole. What does that mean for the rate of a reaction if I double the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius around room temperature?
1 sec, running that. So adding 10 degrees Celsius near room temperature doesn't double the absolute temperature, but it is enough that with the 50 kilojoule per mole activation energy, the rate roughly doubles. That's the classic rule of thumb.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we didn't talk about quantum chromodynamics, right? It was a fairly common concept, but I think it's super amazing. With a cheap model, you can have this kind of conversation. I think 99%. There was one moment where I felt a little bit uncomfortable about the question, but overall it was pretty good. So if I find the clicker, we can continue. Here. Okay, so that voice mode is cool, but be careful. Then another thing you can do with it is you can use connectors. You can give ChatGPT control over your browser. It will be your browser. And the first time I used it a couple of weeks ago, I let it set up an Instagram account for me. Okay. Then I said, well, it filled out all the bio and did all of these things. Occasionally I had to click. And And then I generated an image. I wanted it to post it, and it got confused. Okay, so this gets sometimes stuck, but probably will become a better thing in the future. And so what I'm showing you here is you have to go in ChatGPT, you have to go to work. It doesn't work with chat. And then you will see what's happening. So I say, open a browser and navigate to the protein data bank. I'll open up protein data bank browser. I have to allow it. Still listening. So and then I take one of Wen's favorite proteins, I think. And it goes there, selects one. I'm not doing anything in the browser. ChatGPT is doing all of this, yeah. So that loads it. And then I say, okay, I'm a new biochem student. What can I do here? Can you give me a quick demo? So I think if it's a complicated web page, this is not the easiest to navigate, in my opinion. This can be very helpful, right? You get stuck, you can quickly ask something. You can always mess with your own browser. You will see this in a second when the big cursor comes. That's me doing something. So that's me now zooming a little bit around. So this can be kind of really speeding you up, getting familiar with new software or data banks and stuff like that. One warning is I would never give this thing a password, okay? Again, you might be okay with it, but most likely this is way too risky, okay? So that's kind of cool, but it sometimes gets stuck. So it brings me to the next point, reading papers with large language models. I know all of you will have to read, including myself, lots of papers, okay? And when you're a new student, this can be, even a little bit later on, a very challenging thing. You start to read, nothing really makes sense, right? You force your eyes to go over the text, but it doesn't really make sense. So we want to talk a little bit about that. So here are my tips, personal tips. Start with upload the PDF, right? And maybe some more context about yourself and the research, and ask about the big picture question. Okay, what's going on here? Why are they doing it? What domain does this lie, and so on and so forth. And then often you get stuck because there are terms in there that you're unfamiliar with. Okay, and of course it's very easy to say two-sentence answer. I need to know what that term means. Okay, so we can keep on reading. You can ask it to look at the figures and explain them to you. They're usually the keys of the figures. The figures are the key of the paper. So you can say, what is actually plotted here? And what are these different symbols, right? And what does the axis mean? And stuff like that. Then you can, together with the LLM, reconstruct the logic of the paper, right? Where was the starting point and so on and so forth. Again, if you have the patience, let it quiz yourself. And the number one advice from Wen and me is you still need to read the paper. If it's an important paper for you, forget about the large language. It can help you the first round. You have to just read the thing, right? But there's others that you want to read a little faster. So I'm trying to demonstrate a few steps. So I uploaded one of my own papers, doesn't really matter. I ask, what is the main question, central aim, claim? Why does it matter? Stuff like that. So I start with this. It gives me something like a summary, right? But not really a summary. And then I advise to the next level, decode unfamiliar language, right? I read my own introduction. I said, oh, this far from equilibrium conditions, what does that mean, right? And what are creeping thoughts? That's weird. And I specify, explain it like you're talking to an undergrad who not get some kind of super complicated answer. And so it gives me these three answers that I had requested here, including morphospace. That can be very helpful to kind of digest the introduction. Then figure 7, I say, looks very complicated. The confusion matrix, we will talk about this. This was an AI paper. What do we learn from it? Limit the answer to 3 sentences. And it gives me an answer, and I say, what's the confusion matrix, right? And it gives me an answer for that. So you can really, I think, make these papers more approachable, but the reading will still have to be done with your mind, right? but where you usually say, I read this paper, I don't understand a word, right? You can kind of get over that activation energy barrier. So another big thing is literature search. And we will hear a talk tomorrow on agentic AI. Many of these things are agentic AI systems where you don't deal with one, but you create like a whole bunch of agents that start to crawl over the literature and look for what you're looking for. And so why do we need stuff like that? The problem is that so many chemistry papers. A few years ago, 185,000 chemistry papers a year, okay? Add bio and medicine to it, becomes, it is already unnavigatable. So even in smaller areas like physical chemistry, 60 years ago, 50 years ago, people could still pretty much read every paper. Days are long gone, right? There's absolutely no chance in hell that you will read this, right? Even briefly. So we have to search for the papers that are relevant to us. And the quality of that search dictates how much we learn about our own field. So I think the only way to really do this is then to triage, right? To cut. You can't read all of them, so what do you read, right? And how fast can you read? Reading a good paper for a beginner probably takes a day minimum, right? And so I think it's good to do literature search with conventional or with AI and kind of identify the papers that you want to read, right? One a day, one a week, something like that. And then there will be others that you look at the abstract, the figures, read a little bit around, memorize a little bit of the stuff, store it, but you like, okay, I don't have time to do this now. And then there are others that only look at the title and the abstract, maybe something so you're aware of its existence, right? So you have to triage. We use the conventional literature search like Google Scholar or Web of Science. They work very well. They're, really reliable if your keywords are correct. But they also have limitations and they give you different results. So for that, we have these AI agents doing it. And you can send them out if you have to pay for, right? I only use cheap free ones. They screen through the literature 12 hours for you with very specific questions that you want to have answered, right? They read thousands of papers and write code to analyze the papers in your interest. So one that I want to briefly is this one by Future House. It's actually based on Cosmos, Edison Scientific, very smart people. They built this for scientists, okay? And they claim, I don't know, whatever that means, 6 months of PhD work in one day. Sounds pretty cool, right? It means you can finish your PhD in, no, the other components do too. And well, this thing will not only spit out references, it will draw conclusions for you. And please be mindful that a good number of them are wrong. Still can be helpful, right? Can also send you off in the wrong direction. Another thing is that their database is kind of limited. Although they see lots and lots of papers, they don't see all of them because many are paywalled, right? So you have to pay for them. So this is how that thing looks like. Your sentence. And then even in the free mode, it will at least work half an hour on this and look through papers and formulate a response for you. While this is happening, you see all kinds of things popping up on the screen. The different agents are reporting back, the planning stage is revised, all kinds of things. And at the end of it, it spits out a report. This very modest question could be to Sean. And I formatted it in Claude, and it gives you this nice, fairly simple question. Check the literature for half an hour. But again, please be mindful that this relies mainly on PubMed, Archive, bioRxiv, Scholar. Their papers it can't see because you would have to pay for it. So that's kind of cool. And so once you read your papers, you did a literature search, at some point, well, there's something in between, right? Oh, it's called research. Okay. But at some point, you will have to write it up. Okay. And again, LLMs can help you with this, and they can also waste a lot of time. So a little bit information on how Wen and I both think, and I think many of our colleagues too, that you should always start with your own draft. Yeah. Don't just like, hey, I have this data, write a paper for me. All right. Or here's some information, write an introduction for me. That's bad, really. I mean, it will not be a good, right? So even if the English is not great and it's not very smooth, write your own draft. Think about the structure, formulate the whole thing, okay? And then you can feed it into LLM, but not the whole document, but maybe sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph, right? And let it polish it a little bit for you. Then think whether you still like it, right? Maybe it obscured some information that you wanted to give. Another interesting thing is you can build these voice documents. I will show you an example about that in a second. Again, make very small changes. I think the best way to do this is to say, hey, ChatGPT, you're my professional editor, okay? I don't want you to rewrite my stuff. You will just point out things that are a little unsmooth and grammatical errors and stuff like that, or repetitions. That's what I want to hear. And then I fix it, and you tell me whether I fixed it. So approach like that. The worst thing that can happen is that stuff like that occurs. So these are published papers, and there are many. You can go to Retraction Watch and enjoy a few of them. And in this case, the paper started with this sentence here. I should quickly explain what a retraction is. So this is one of the really, really not so great things that can happen to a scientist. Sometimes, you know, you made an honest mistake. Most people never experience this, but you have to retract the paper because there's something wrong, okay? That would be a permanent stain in the record, right? And not that great, right? Life goes on, but man, it's bad, okay? And so a paper retraction is a painful process for whatever scenario. And these guys really invite by starting their paper with, certainly, here's a possible introduction for your talk. Okay, that was published. It was reviewed, the editor okayed it, and it made it into the literature. It's a shame on all fronts. Okay, entire books have been retracted because there was stuff like that in there, and it's bad, right? This worst case scenario, I think. Not learning for your PhD is bad. This is much worse, perhaps. On the other hand, there are people around who are like, hey, this whole research thing that you guys are doing, I will completely automate it. And they're usually computer scientists in the moment. I will ask the LLM to come up with an idea proposal, and I will check it, use it, or it itself. It's one contained system. Check the novelty. I will run the analysis. I will run the study, essentially. You see why computer science is suitable and organic chemistry a little bit less. And then at the end, it will do all the graphics for me. It will give me a paper template. It will write the paper, and then it will review its own paper. Okay? So you press a button, out comes the paper. Very sad. Not good in the moment, but I just want to show you there's a possibility that something like that will exist, definitely in the more theoretical areas at some point in the future. So automated scientists. This goes back a little bit in history, many years back to the year 2022. Wei doesn't even remember that year, it's so long ago. And back then I was still playing with it, and I thought, hey, let's write really a text from hell. Okay, so I wrote this text, and maybe some biochemists recognize what text this could have been. It's a double helix paper, right? Watson and Crick. And I butchered it. Bad. And we suggest structure of DNA structure is novel, and so on. I said, oh yeah, polish this for me, and they gave me that. So 4 years ago, this thing was, from a writing point of view, not bad. No, today we can do other things. This gets a little complicated, so stay with me. So you can create voice documents. So if you have a project, you can upload samples of yours writing or your PI's writing, right? And so I did this. I did it for 2 papers. One from Alan Marshall, who recently passed away, a big analytical chemist here, and myself, a small physical chemist. Not by height, but, oh well, Alan was also heavier than me. So one paper is not usually quite enough to do this, but I did it anyway. So 2 papers pre-LLM days. And it analyzed the voice, gave lots of information, but then I asked it to summarize, and he said, Alan Marshall writes, the logic is clinical problem, method, performance. He uses longer, information-dense sentences, and the presence of the paper is technical, procedural, and impersonal. Mine is, it starts with observation, derives a question and proposes a mechanism. That's the logic of the paper. The rhythm is shorter, varied, visually guided. Figure 2 shows stuff like that. The present is explanatory, mechanistic, professorial. I don't know what's better, professorial or impersonal. You guys decide. So then I took this and I said, Hedy Matusi wrote this nice paper. I give you the abstract, okay? And I want you to draft something we don't want to do, an introduction paragraph for the introduction, first paragraph, okay? So it gave me this long text, too much to read. Look at the colored sentences. So the Marshall Group starts, metal halide, perovskite nanocrystals, Hedy's work, have emerged as a promising material for light emitting and other optoelectronic, long sentence technical, right? Mine starts, same material, reducing a crystal to only a few atomic layers profoundly changes its optical properties. Do you sense that there's a stylistic difference, right? And so you can really step this up from just like, hey, rewrite this for me, to like maintain my sound, my voice, right? My writing style, or my PI's writing style. Okay, very important, check references. You're responsible for this stuff, okay? If ChatGPT spits 50 references and some are wrong, it's your mistake, not ChatGPT's, right? You own it. I own it too. So having said these harsh words, I tried to provoke a mistake in April, and it took me a while. It took me a while to get a wrong reference, but I finally got it to spit out a wrong reference. And what was happening here is the page number, okay? This is the correct page number. This is the page number it gave me. So it made a mistake. That would be in that moment your mistake or my mistake. And then I tried it again. Of course, it had fixed itself by now. These things have gotten better. You remember the days where the hands had 6 fingers? I tried to find a 6-finger picture on the internet, didn't like it. And I said, oh, I can just ask ChatGPT to make a 6-finger hand for me. Didn't want to do it. Get a 6-finger hand out of that. I found this one on Reddit. So these systems evolve, and I think the references are getting also more reliable, but you have to check them. All right. So just a quick summary of some things, partly incorrect references I saw recently in the recent months. Really nasty. Upload a PDF, and the thing says, oh, yeah, this is a paper, blah, blah, right? Or, oh, this text talks about this and that. But it didn't even open the text, right? Or it just all made it up. So this can happen. So you have to always poke around a little bit to see whether the thing really, especially if you load up a lot, really read it. Leading the witness. So it's like, isn't this an interesting paper? And it will say, yeah, this is a very cool paper, right? I mean, it tries to please you. Keep that in mind. Then there's lots to be said about writing. It has these AI constructions, like the favorite one of all of these things. It's not only X, but Y, okay? And that's a very typical AI. And it's crazy because I feel bad. There's nothing wrong with the sentence, right? But now I feel already bad writing stuff like that. So there are some things like that. Certain AI phrases, the quiet balance of the thermodynamic equilibrium, stuff like that. All right. Another amazing thing is, and a task for you in your second-year talk, in candidacy exam, in your fourth-year talk, in your PhD, you go to conferences, you will have to make slides, right? PowerPoint presentations. So AI can help you with making these, with all the limitations and precautions that you have to take. So I show this example here. I have this slightly longer prompt, right? I'm try to take something a little bit different, right? Not something that it can just download from the internet, maybe, at least not easily. And so I asked for a particular type of PowerPoint slide with concentrations and equations and stuff like that for a particular model. And I get this slide from ChatGPT, I think. It looks pretty good. It ran the simulation, by the way, right, in the background. And it plotted what I wanted. I would need to check whether this here is actually really data from the history, from the literature, or whether it's fake. But it plotted the correct equations. But you also see it doesn't look great, right? The subscripts are not there. So, but it's a good starting point for making a slide, right? ChatGPT gave me this, much more information, I don't know why, and kind of overlapping and busy. But you know, if you start cutting stuff here, right? Or moving to the comments section, it can speed things up a little bit. Would I do this for my own research? Never, right? For teaching, maybe. Because, I have my own figures, right? I know what I want to say. I don't really need this, right? But the use case tomorrow who's all excited about this. Then for teaching in particular, but also for outreach and occasionally for your own research, it can be a helpful thing to make animations. Okay, I teach thermodynamics, for example. So I say, create an animation. This is in Claude design of two populations of ideal gas atoms initially separated by a wall. Once the wall is removed, the populations mix. Okay, I waited a few seconds, and it had created this thing. This is the video, but it's interactive. You see my moving around. So there are the gas molecules. Then at some point, I press the remove wall button, and bang, they start to mix. Okay, this is a realistic simulation, no idea, but it's a nice animation, right? To explain maybe to a freshman about ideal gases and mixing. This is also in Claude design. I ask it, model a 3D object. I want a simple cubic next to a face-centered cubic next to a body-centered cubic crystal, okay? And it gives you this, and you can move it around, right, and stuff like that. Nice, right? For teaching, I think it's a pretty cool thing. All of these things you can find probably somewhere, but they're all in one program. So looks cool, I think. Then for some papers, video editors and publishers are very interested in that. I barely ever do it. So that is maybe also something to keep in mind, that this can assist you in doing video abstracts of your papers. It's not so easy to make a video of stuff, right? And like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, whenever I finished publishing a paper, oh no, that's not what he said. I felt my job was only half done. Every paper had to be nurtured in the marketplace. You can't have the greatest movie in the world, but you can have the greatest movie in the world, but if you don't get it out there, people will not know about it. Same with papers, related to the fact there are hundreds of thousands of these papers around, right? You work very hard, you want to talk about it, you want to sell it a little bit. All right. Do this, and also for outreach, it's kind of fun to maybe narrate this. I have a very, very successful, I think, YouTube video that a graduate student of mine did, and he was an international student and didn't want to speak, right? So back then he already used a synthetic voice to read his text. So I tried this here. Maybe I use some mouse for this one. And see, is this overwritten? No. So this is a text that will become familiar to some of you. It's from the handbook. And you can use the normal voice.
Chemistry and Biochemistry at Florida State University offers a Doctor of Philosophy degree, PhD in chemistry.
Okay, so you can do things like that. But you can give it also more character.
The Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at Florida State University offers a Doctor of Philosophy degree, PhD in chemistry,
Heady,
which is a research degree.
Oops. And here's one that I would not recommend. This is 11 Lab. They're free. There might be use cases for this. Okay. Another thing is Notebook LLM. That's Gemini-based, Google. And it's kind of cool. Some people use it. I don't use it that much because Gemini isn't that great. But it stays, if you give it 10 papers, it stays very much confined to these 10 papers, right? It knows other stuff too, but it tries to focus on those 10 papers and not spread out on something new or things to know. And so I uploaded, I think, 4 papers from Way, and I picked them randomly. I'm sorry, Way. They're not a fair representation of his work. And and you can ask for summaries, you can discuss the papers with the thing. But then, probably will never use this, but I want to show you, you can also make these animated slide decks. Could be good for a video abstract. So it generated this infographics. Way told me it's goodish.
Have you wondered how scientists actually see the invisible? Today, we're peeking into the Wei Yang lab. So here's the game plan. We'll look at the forces they study and the amazing tools they're building. Okay, our story starts with invisible forces that basically run everything in biology. Electrostatics. These forces are fundamental to life. They dictate pretty much every single molecular interaction. But to see this world, it's so small and fast, a normal microscope just won't cut it. That's where molecular dynamic simulations come in. Think of them as a digital microscope for molecules. The key is making this digital world hyper realistic, mimicking conditions inside our own bodies. Thing is, for a long time, these simulations weren't quite accurate enough.
I can share it. Not that great. But it's pretty good, right? I just uploaded the papers, right? And all right, so this brings me close to the end of this lecture. Harvard Gazette article, and I think it's discussing a really valid point, right? Is AI making us dumb, right? I think we all once in a while felt that if we've used it, right, that you're really outsourcing all the intellectual work, and that's the opposite of a PhD. So please always keep in mind that when you want to learn something, and I hope that's why we are here, the friction, the painful part in a certain way, is when probably the learning occurs, right? The quick answer, probably no learning, okay? No pain, no gain. Sounds kind of primitive, but there's some truth to it. So don't shy away from all friction. Shy away from some friction, and then use the freed up time to focus the friction on something that you really care about. So here were a couple of thoughts. Different font, super weird. It's not, well, faster is not always better. Use it or lose it. Everyone starts to sound alike. A former graduate student of mine calls this a TEDification of science. All TED Talks by now, they were great in the beginning. They all look kind of similar, right? They all follow the same formula. If we all use large language models, we all sound alike. Spotting exceptions. And the take-home message is that judgment and taste become premium skills, that when you use it, you're being trained too, right? In unfortunate ways, probably. And friction is where the learning lives. So keep in mind that these tools that we are using always and have always kind of influenced the way we go into the future, who we are. And while this was a warning, I also want to stop with some kind of slightly more positive outlook on large language models in education. And then I'm done.
We're both moms. We both have young teenagers. How do you think AI will change learning in the college experience?
AI must change learning. AI must change K to 16 learning. I think this is one of the biggest opportunity for humanity in the next decade to come, is that what the most precious resource of our entire world is human capital. And when we have gotten a technology that can answer standardized tests, whether it's a Common Core kind of test all the way to international Olympiad math exams, when AI can do better than average human, it's not about humans are bad. It's about we need to change the education system. We need to change how we evaluate. We need to change the way we empower teachers to teach, to educate the next generation of students where they can use these tools, be empowered, and do things that we can never imagine.
So do you think our kids will still learn?
Absolutely. If we teach them right, if the society prepares them right, they should not be, all of the kids today should not be scared of AI. They should feel the human agency to lead AI, to use AI in the right way, and to use AI to make the impact that they want to make for the world.